Me?
Viewtiful Joe, in my opinion, is the greatest side-scrolling beat-em-up of all time, with jaw-dropping cel-shaded graphics and one of the most unique combat systems in all of gaming. Viewtiful Joe took us gamers by complete surprise. Move over, Mega Man, there was a new kid in town. I first read about Viewtiful Joe in Games Magazine, issue 5, April 2003, the one where they reviewed Wind Waker. And on page 60 they previewed Viewtiful Joe. What caught my eye was the developer profile section, where it said the man directing Viewtiful Joe also directed Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry. So needless to say, Viewtiful Joe had my attention. It was reviewed 4 months later in issue 9, and it was everything I was hoping for, saying, Viewtiful Joe is a deeply playable and highly enjoyable title that is verging on masterpiece status. The only negative thing that was said was that its difficulty may stop many gamers from seeing everything it has to offer, which is a fair point and is something I'll get into in a bit. Joe is your average movie buff, just chilling at the flicks with his chick Sylvia, when all of a sudden, Sylvia gets pulled into the movie by some gigantic evil being. Then, Joe gets dragged in too by the mecha robot Six Machine. But don't worry, he's good. Six Machine is ya boy. I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. Early on, you get some tips from Captain Blue about how to control the flow of time with your V-Watch.
Head to the go-go, baby!
And then it's off to rescue Sylvia. All the stages are themed and pay homage to a particular movie or movie genre. The stages are almost a character in themselves. Take a look at Charles III's boss room, for example. As you approach the vampire bat's coffin, the level pans around, revealing creepy old gothic paintings as candles flicker around you. It's 2.5D cel-shaded heaven. Viewtiful Joe's character designs were heavily influenced by old Japanese TV shows like Ultraman and Kamen Rider. And even today, it's still one of the best looking games I've ever seen. The music and sound are brilliant too. From Joe saying, "Yummy!" when you pick up some health, to the punchy thuds of Joe's slow motion combos. The game's audio is just dialed up to 11 the entire time. Plus, every time you pause the game, the narrator says something like,
"Make sure you flush the toilet."
But where Viewtiful Joe truly shines is in the fluidity of its controls. The left trigger slows down time, the right trigger speeds up time, flick the right analog stick forward to zoom in and perform unstoppable attacks, move the left stick up or down to dodge enemies' attacks, which makes them vulnerable in slow motion, so when you attack they fly off and collide with each other. It's brilliant, and is something that just never gets old. Using a special ability will drain your VFX gauge. Run out of VFX and you turn back into regular Joe until the first bar refills. It's a great mechanic that forces you to fight strategically as opposed to just mashing the buttons. You progress through Viewtiful Joe by defeating waves of enemies section by section, and each stage usually ends in a boss fight. The bosses all look like they've just jumped out of a Ninja Turtles cartoon. They're all wicked hard and will require your blood, sweat and tears to beat, because Viewtiful Joe is hard, like NES hard, like Castlevania hard. At the start of the game it gives you a choice of difficulty. Kids or adults. Viewtiful Joe basically peer pressures you into picking adults, because what self-respecting gamer is going to pick kids? But what you don't know is you've just entered a world of pain. Then you reach the Magnificent 5. The Magnificent 5 is a stage where you'll have to beat harder versions of the 4 previous bosses, one after the other with no save points. If you game over on the 4th boss, then it's back to the 1st. And just when you think it couldn't get any harder, Fire Leo enters the chat. And when you've defeated him, Viewtiful Joe's like,
"I really shouldn't put this in hyperdrive, but I just can't seem to help myself. Oh well."
It throws at you one of the hardest end stages in video game history, with 2 boss battles to go along with it. On adult difficulty, it's one of the hardest video games I've ever played. I mean, we're talking Ornstein and Smaug levels of difficulty. You need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to train like Van Damme in Kickboxer. You need to kick that tree over and over again until you're ready to dip your hands in broken glass and face Tong Po. But when you get it down, you do get that real sense of accomplishment. And I think that's why Viewtiful Joe still has such a passionate fan base. Much like the Souls games, to beat it, you have to know the game like the back of your hand. And getting to know the game only makes you love and appreciate it more. The second to last boss battle when you're in Six Machine and you're fighting King Blue on top of the earth is still one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in a video game. With its unforgettable art style and totally unique fighting system, Viewtiful Joe was nothing short of a masterpiece and is definitely in my top 5 video games of all time. Luckily for us Viewtiful Joe fans, it didn't quite end there. Viewtiful Joe 2 came out only a year later in 2004 to the same critical acclaim. While Sylvia was only an unlockable character in the first game, in the sequel she joins Joe for the entire adventure Donkey Kong Country style. She doesn't change too much from a gameplay perspective, but she looks ace, comes with a gun and has her own moveset. It's a perfect sequel in every way, tweaking just enough to make it feel fresh, but at the same time keeping the core of the game very much the same. But sadly, it remained the only sequel. Viewtiful Joe did get 2 spin-offs a year later, as well as a cartoon. Yeah, Viewtiful Joe had an anime, and it was dope. And I'm absolutely livid I only found out about it years later.
So angry, I feel like swearing!
Anyway, the first Viewtiful Joe spin-off was Red Hot Rumble, released in September 2005. At first glance, you'd say Red Hot Rumble is just a Smash Bros clone. And you'd be right. But Red Hot Rumble does bring a few cool ideas to the table. In story mode, you have to compete for the leading role in Captain Blue's new movie, making sure to win as many rounds in a battle as possible. Each round will have a different objective, like defeat more enemies, collect more gems, or inflict more damage on a boss than your opponent. Battle mode is exactly like Smash Bros, and much like Smash Bros,
I have no idea what's going on.
it's an okay game. Personally, I don't think it was the right move for Viewtiful Joe, and I'm sure after seeing the success of Melee, Capcom was right up Clover Studios' arse like, do it! About a month later, Viewtiful Joe Double Trouble was released for Nintendo DS. It felt about as good as a watered down Viewtiful Joe game could get with forced touchscreen controls. I personally never really liked the touchscreen motion control direction Nintendo took after the GameCube and Game Boy Advance, and I think Viewtiful Joe deserved a much better game to go out on than this. Viewtiful Joe's director Hideki Kamiya and producer Atsushi Inaba are 2 living legends. While you may not know Viewtiful Joe's creators by name, you certainly know them by the games they've had a part in creating. And in the early 2000s, they both found themselves part of Clover Studios. Clover Studios was founded by Capcom in 2004. Though the studio only lasted for about 5 years, it's still responsible for the entire Viewtiful Joe series, Okami, and God Hand. But Capcom's reins proved too tight for the Clover Studios team, Kamiya and Inaba included, who all left and founded Platinum Games in 2007, which sadly means that Capcom own the rights to Viewtiful Joe. Kamiya, at PAX East last year, told gamers to email Capcom and ask for sequels to dormant franchises. He also said he'd like to finish the Viewtiful Joe series with a 3rd game and remake the first game for the Nintendo Switch. So there might be a slim chance that Viewtiful Joe could get a HD remake so younger gamers can experience this masterpiece, as well as a brand new game that would at least give Viewtiful Joe fans some closure, because if there was ever a series that deserved the reboot, this is it. Thanks for watching, I've been the Tominator, and you've just clicked to reboot Viewtiful Joe.